down the hallway and exit doors are on the left. If that path is blocked, there is a second exit available in the office to the left of the dais. Both exits are marked with red exit signs. In the event of an evacuation, please meet up in the southernmost corner of the parking lot so you can account for everyone. If that is not a safe place due to the emergency, proceed to a safe place and contact Town Hall by phone once the emergency is ended. We have a limited number of sound amplification devices for people with hearing impairments. Please silence your telephones and electronic devices. If you need to make or take a call, kindly proceed to the library area just past the restrooms and have your conversation. Thank you for your cooperation.
Thank you. Everybody ready? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Smith Room for the March 2nd Town Council meeting. We are going to have a moment of silence and say the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd like to stand, that would be great. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I need a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved, Madam Mayor.
I need a second.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We have two presentations tonight. And let's see, the first is Chief Palkovics, I believe. Oh, I knew about that.
We good?
Yep, we're good. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Ms. Manager. Good evening. It's good to see you guys. If I can bring up Michael and Mason, if you guys will come up here. Tonight, it is my pleasure to introduce our two newest members of the Kitty Hawk Police Department. And we've gone in two different ways here. First, I'm going to start with Mason. Mason comes to us by way of Norfolk Police Department, where he served for just 2 years. He is relocated down here with his wife and started in October. And I'm going to say within 3 weeks or 4 weeks of starting here, he welcomed his newest child, or his only child, his youngest child, into the family as well. So he has had an eventful start already. He is currently out working on the street for us, but he's attending BLET as a partial as well. And if all goes well this summer, he will be released from everything and have all of his certifications here in Virginia. So we welcome Mason. Secondly is Michael Reinke next to me here, and we're going a different route here. Michael is brand new. This young man, and you can tell he's young, is very energetic and excited, and we are excited to have him. He had just started with us after working at Target, and he's a full student in the basic law enforcement training. Going there, studying hard, as I'm told, and we talked about earlier today, and doing well. So again, in the summer, we look forward to having him graduated and then starting the field training process, getting him started. And Michael has brought his family with him, so I'm going to put you on the spot, Michael, and talk about that speaking. I'm going to introduce your mother and father just so they can be introduced as well.
So my parents over there, third row back. That's my mother and my dad to the right, Lisa Reinke and Mike Reinke. And I have my three siblings right here. My oldest on the end here, Haley Reinke. My middle child sister right there, Ashley Reinke. And my youngest brother, Kate Reinke.
Aw,
Nice.
thank you.
So we
Welcome.
welcome them, and I think it's interesting to point out for me at least, Michael is unique because he is the one that has taken us over our largest compliment that we've ever had. He is the 17th, will be the 17th sworn officer on our compliment, and he finishes his BLET, and we couldn't do that without y'all's support, so thank you all very much for that support. And we look forward to filling the 18th and being completely full again. So thank you. Congratulations, guys.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Welcome. Our second presenter is stuck on the Alligator River Bridge, and he will be here as quickly as he can get here, but hasn't arrived yet. So we're going to go on with our agenda.
There's a bad accident at the Maniac intersection,
Oh, is it?
like bad.
Okay. Let's see. Madam Clerk, do we have anybody signed up to speak tonight?
Yes, ma'am, we do. Our first speaker is Charlotte Pettigott.
Good evening, my name is Charlotte, it's a very good name. I'm representing the League of Women Voters of Dare County, and I'm presenting the 2026 Citizens Guide, and it's to a guide to community services. Complimentary copies are published by the League since 1988. They're distributed annually to government and businesses and offices throughout Dare County. It has contact information for local, state, national governmental agencies, voting information, emergency numbers, and more. The guide is published by the League of Women Voters of Dare Education Foundation. On the back cover are the acknowledgments of the municipalities and local businesses that donated toward the publication expenses. Thank you. Thanks to all the staff members who helped update the information for this year's guide. And League members are now distributing 6,400 copies of the guide from Duck to Hatteras Village, Roanoke Island, and Mainland Dare. You'll find them in libraries, post offices, the Vaughn, Investment Center, the town, and county offices. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages informed, active participation of citizens in government, public policy, and they do this through education and advocacy. It's part of the continued commitment publishing this guide to provide information to voters. Membership in the League is open to anyone of voting age, male or female, and we thank you for your support. We know you'll find the guide useful. And there's someone here that accepts it, that would be Lauren. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. Next.
Next, we have Steve House next.
Okay.
Good evening, council members and Madam Mayor. How are y'all today?
Good.
Great.
I'm here once again on behalf of the Outer Banks Chief Invasion. And in the past few years, we've asked for a ride on the Kitty Hawk beaches, and that's what we're asking for again for this year as well. Our event this year is going to be September 18th and 19th. We're planning on, with your approval, hitting the beach with about 100 Jeeps each day, starting at 8 a.m., being off the beach by 9 a.m. And also in years past, we've had the distinct pleasure of having the police department and also the fire department, Ocean Rescue, out there escorting us on and off the beach. And we cannot say how much we thank you for allowing us to do that. And as you know, as in years past, with that event, the money raised from that event is donated to your police department and to your Ocean Rescue. So with your permission, I'm asking again, can we have the beach ride?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we grant approval to OBX Jeep Invasion for permission to ride on our beach.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
I think you have permission.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
How
Thank you.
quickly did you say that sold out the last time?
Last year, we opened up registration at 12 midnight, and by 7 a.m. it was full.
Wow, that's
And,
amazing.
And the year prior to that, we opened up registration at 12 noon, and by 12:10, it was sold out.
Wow. Oh, my goodness. Well, that's amazing.
Yeah, thank you
Just
so much.
take care of our
Thank you
beach.
for what you do.
It's like a Taylor Swift concert.
Okay, council, I need a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Thank you.
Consent agenda.
Consent agenda.
Consent agenda.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No? Okay, good. The consent agenda is approved. Planning. We need to schedule two public hearings for the, first for the zoning text amendment for the accessory dwelling units. Do I have a motion to approve?
Madam Mayor, I move to set a public hearing at the Town Council meeting on April 6, 2026, to consider the proposed text amendment to Section 42-528.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The second zoning text amendment are for the setbacks associated with pool decking that we discussed previous.
Madam Mayor, I move to set a public hearing at the town council meeting on April 6, 2026, to consider the proposed text amendment to section 42-504I.
Second?
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Let's see, now would be a good time to have Ken Wilson come up if you're, if you have caught your breath. No, we're on it.
No sneaking in.
Well, if you're gonna sneak in, you better be on time.
It's fun. I don't know if Liliana told you, but this morning we were joking around about whether or not, I was like, yeah, I'll be here plenty of time. And all that stupid bridge doesn't stop me.
The bridge has caught every one of us at some point in time.
I pulled up to it and I emailed her. I'm like, ugh, I may have
I
shot
heard-
myself in the foot.
I heard she told you to swim.
Yeah.
You know, that's our soft-hearted finance officer.
Swim faster.
I told her I'd try to swim. She said, Lily, get me.
For those of you that don't know, this is Ken Wilson, and he is with the Coastal Protection Engineering, and he has a presentation on the dunes. We
Thank you,
need to-
Mayor. Yeah, mainly we want to give a little bit of an update on some recent analysis that we completed, looking at some dune vulnerability, and I know we've got another option item that was in that contract that we're going to try to get approved as well. I'll give you some context on that in just a second. Escape, no.
Huh?
There you go. Fall else fails.
All right. Yeah, so just to kind of frame a reference, I know you all deal with a lot of different issues. I'm sure the agenda's filled with all kinds of stuff, but as well as the folks in the audience tonight, just to kind of walk through a little bit to understand how these projects work and kind of frame the argument. or the, you know, the discussion that we're gonna have. So here we've got kind of like this cartoon representation of, you know, what a beach would look like pre-project, before we build anything out there. And so I'm gonna walk through a couple of quick pictures and just show you, this is what Kitty Hawk, you know, taking it from cartoon to reality, this is what Kitty Hawk looked like before the project went in. And so we're dealing with, you know, houses out on the beach, you know, threats to the Highway 12. This was just a photo to illustrate how the water was coming up under homes and being able to overflow Highway 12 in the past. So when we approach one of these projects, we try to figure out, okay, well, how much sand would we need to put out there on the beach in order to provide a certain level of protection so that the water doesn't come over Highway 12 every time there's a nor'easter, or, you know, up to a certain dune, up to a certain design storm, houses aren't going to fall down. So what I'm showing on this graphic right here are those red arrows are pointing to the amount of sand that needs to be in place to provide a certain level of protection. And then in front of that design, those green arrows, that's additional sand that we would place in front of that design amount of fill, so that over some period of time, that sand will, you know, wash away normal erosional conditions. But the idea is to always hold that red sand in place. Sometimes, you know, these projects happen every 5, 6, whatever the interval is, years, and people tend to think you just put all the sand on the beach, then you wait for all of it to erode away, and now it's time to put more sand back on the beach. This graphic is to show that the first time you're putting all of that sand, the design and advanced fill, but in the future when you're doing maintenance, it's really just that advanced fill that you're trying to place there. So this also kind of illustrates that the sand that's placed on the beach goes out into deeper water. It's not all up on the dry sand beach. But when the project is first constructed, it is all placed on the upper part of the beach, because these bulldozers and the way that the sand is placed, they can't place material way out deep into the water. They stack it all up on the upper part of the profile, and eventually we let Mother Nature wave effects move that material into the offshore. So that's what this graphic shows. And at the end of it, if everything works out well, you're back to what I was just showing. You've got this flat dry sand berm. In the case of Kitty Hawk, we constructed what's pointed out there as a starter dune. That was to provide a little bit of a speed bump so that as water comes up over that berm, it's not making it over Highway 12 and into the road. This is just a couple of shots during the construction of that original project. This is right down there around the Black Pelican. So this is a bulldozer constructing that speed bump, that starter dune that I was talking about. And when it was all done, this is kind of what that starter dune looked like. And you can see in front of it is that flat, dry sand beach. This would have been very soon after the project was built, before some of that sand moved out into the nearshore environment. All right, so let's see here. All right, okay, so all I'm showing here is the difference between, if you look at that starter dune, that's kind of how it was constructed. And over time, that starter dune has gotten bigger and bigger with the sand fencing and the multiple projects. And so a couple of comparison, I already showed you this photo, but if you look at where the arrow is pointing, I was here last summer for another site visit. And this is that same structure, but showing how not only that small starter dune that I showed a couple of slides back is still there, but with the sand fencing, with the vegetation, what it looks like several years later. This is that same house I showed before. A different view, kind of that arrow is pointing to that front step, but you can see how that starter dune has increased over time. So I want to talk a little bit, now that we've kind of framed that reference and we're thinking in terms of a design beach and additional sand out in front of that design beach, I want to walk through a couple of high points of, as we move into this 2027 project, what are the things that our firm is focused in on. So essentially, all 4 of the towns, Kitty Hawk's project is built in cooperation with Duck, Kill Devil Hills, and Southern Shores. All 4 towns are looking at building the same extent of the projects that were built in 2022. We are talking a little bit about a potential increase in the amount of fill density, and I'll talk to you on the very next slide about what we're talking about in terms of You'll hear me talk about a 5-year maintenance cycle versus a 7-year maintenance cycle. So the last few projects have been built and designed that the project would last 5 years, and in 5 years we would come back with another construction project to replace that advanced fill that I just talked about. And I'll talk a little bit about the benefits, the pros and cons of advancing that to a 6 or 7 year maintenance cycle. Depending on whether we go with a 5 or a 6 or a 7 year maintenance cycle, that third bullet essentially says that the volume for this project combined with the 4 towns, we're looking at around 2.3 to 3.1 million cubic yards. Compared to the initial construction was about 3.9, almost 4 million cubic yards, where the 22-23 project was around 3.1 million. That fourth bullet talks about variable fill densities. So for each of these towns, we've sort of identified the amount of volume that needs to be placed to maintain these projects. We've got some options in terms of, we could just take that volume and spread it evenly along the entire, let's say the town of Kitty Hawk. We could take that volume and spread it very evenly along the town of Kitty Hawk, but we know that the town of Kitty Hawk doesn't all erode away at the same rate. So we're looking at some different patterns and simulating that in some of the modeling that we have, trying to figure out how to optimize that so that at the end of the 5-year or 6-year cycle, we have the most sand possible still inside of the limits of Kitty Hawk, providing the max protection. I'll talk a little bit about potential for dune repairs if needed along localized portions of the project, and this storm burn, the second to last. That's the item that you all approved the last time one of my colleagues, Adam Priest, was up here talking. And then I'll touch real briefly about some additional borrow sites, and that gets me into that additional item that's on your agenda for potential approval. So in terms of that maintenance interval, just again, when we talk about, I keep coming back to this slide because it's so easy to explain the concept here. We can compute very simply the amount of sand to fill up those green wedges there, the wedges used with the green arrows, the advanced fill. And that would be for a 5-year cycle. So we know how fast the sand is eroding away. We simply take that rate, how much sand you would lose over the course of a year, multiply it by 5. That's real easy math. I'm a geologist, even I can do that math. So we get that volume, but if we're going to go to 6 or 7, we have to multiply that volume by 6 years or 7 years, which means the volume for those projects gets bigger and bigger. And so what we're really talking about is in 2027, placing a larger volume of sand at a larger price, but knowing that over either 6 or potentially 7 years, we wouldn't have to come back and do another maintenance interval. And I'll dissect those numbers a little bit better here in just a second. I talked a little bit about potential for dune repair. For the most part, the project in 2022 in Kitty Hawk was just this dry sand beach. However, there were 2 areas. One was like from right around where the bathhouse is, south of Kitty Hawk Road, going down to about White Avenue, a little bit north of White Avenue. That stretch of beach, those dunes have been eroded away pretty significantly. So we built the dry sand beach, and we also repaired some of the dunes there. This is a drone video or drone image that I took last week when I was up here for another meeting. It's showing that same stretch of beach and some of the scarping that's occurring there. So in our permits, we will provide you all the flexibility of making those repairs. We'll probably wait until we have updated survey data, which will come probably in the next 2 or 3 months here, probably early May. But once we get that updated survey data, we'll settle in on the extent of where we may want to do some of those dune repairs. But that's that section just around John's Drive-In is there in the background. All right, the second point in that long bulleted list that I wanted to touch on was that analysis that Adam talked to you about the last time we were up here. And so basically I showed previously that starter dune, it looked like a little speed bump, and it has grown over time. This is an actual beach profile from a little bit north of the project up near Eckner. But what it's showing is the growth of that dune. So that the yellow portion of that dune is what was actually constructed in 2017. And the orange shaded area is showing that as we went through and did subsequent beach profile surveys, basically surveying the topography, the elevation of a line that goes from the backside of the dune all the way out to around 30 feet of water. As we survey over and over that profile, we see how the dune changes, the beach changes, the offshore changes over time. And on this particular profile, it's showing a big buildup of the amount of sand in that dune. And so before the 2022 project, we ran a storm simulation model to look at, because that dune had built up so much, how much more protection was in place in 2021, I believe, than there was when we first designed the project back in 2014. And I'll show you that those results a little bit, I guess on this slide here. So in that analysis that was done in 2021, we compared, basically the storm simulation allows us to look at the number of oceanfront structures that would be vulnerable to the equivalent of a Hurricane Isabel storm if it were to hit in 2021 with 2021 water levels, etc. And what we found was that because of this buildup of the starter dune, because of the amount of sand that was out there from the projects, there was about a 44% reduction from what we identified as about 126 structures along Kitty Hawk back in 2014 to now only 70 structures in 2020. And we looked at a couple of different improvements of the dune. Should we build that dune up even more, even though it has grown quite a bit? And we calculated some percentages and some costs for making some changes to that dune. But in the end, the final recommendation when we built the 22 project was that it may have not been worth the bang for the buck, the amount of dry sand beach that was being captured by that sand fencing. Perhaps let's wait, kind of see how this works out, rather than building an actual dune out there. So that was what was done. We ended up constructing 2 separate spots. I just mentioned that area from just south of the bathhouse down to about White Avenue, and then there was a separate section at the very south end of town, about 440 feet long. That area was built up as well. So, you know, mostly the recommendation was sand fencing and just build back those areas that had been damaged previously. So fast forward, the 22 project is built. A couple of years of monitoring have gone by, and back in March, when Adam was up here, we recommended doing that same similar analysis again, because we could see in some of the survey data that that dune had gotten even bigger in the last couple of years. So we went back and re-performed that same analysis. And what we found at the bottom of that table, I know that font is a little bit small, but essentially the bottom of that table, the first number on the left is 126. That was the original number of structures vulnerable prior to any projects being built. I just mentioned that when we did this analysis back in 2021, we found that there were 70 structures that were still vulnerable. When we repeated that analysis just in the last few months in 2025, we found that there were only 15 structures now that were vulnerable. So even though we haven't gone in and intentionally designed features to make this dune or this berm wider, the performance of the overall project and the amount of sand that's being collected by the sand fencing, the vegetation, continues to decrease the risk to those oceanfront structures. So the analysis...
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Could I ask a question about this slide?
Yes.
What is your criteria for determining whether a structure is vulnerable or not?
Great question. So the model essentially, let me show you this picture real quick. So those orange lines that are running up and down on the screen, those are profile lines that are spaced 1,000 feet apart down the beach, and those are those profiles that we measure the elevation on every year. Mm-hmm. We can take any of those profile data sets and we run it through this model called S-Beach, where we have created a hypothetical storm, all the forcing mechanisms of water level, wave heights, wave periods, etc. And we simulate what that Isabel level storm would do to the profile at that point in time. There's a there's a cross-section that would be the actual survey data of what it looks like before the storm, and then the storm produces a post-storm profile. So it modifies the profile, knocks down the dune, whatever's gonna happen. What we use to sort of keep this very objective is where the profile from the actual survey data to the post-storm survey data falls 1 foot in elevation. The furthest point landward that we see that measurement of the profile actually falling 1 foot is what we call an impact point on those points. So for every one of those orange cross sections that we have an impact point, and we basically straight line that impact point from profile to profile to profile.
Okay.
And if a oceanfront structure is intersected, or that profile or that line is landward of one of those houses, then we would label that as vulnerable.
As an impact, okay.
Correct. And if
Gotcha.
you think about that, I mean, we call them vulnerable, not destroyed necessarily. I mean, if you think of an oceanfront structure and like the dune that's out there right now, if something happened to where you lost 1 foot of sand underneath an oceanfront house, I think you would go out there at that point in time and look at that house and say that house is vulnerable. The next storm that happens, something that happens, a big storm can knock that down again. So that's how they're identified.
May I jump in for 1 second?
Yes, sir.
Would it be fair to lead back into his question there? Would it be fair that the surveying that you do underneath the contour of the ocean floor, that's how you determine hot spots too, because it generally shows up in the surveying, correct?
Correct.
Right, and they generally don't change. I mean, they stay within a little distance of each other.
Those hot spots?
The sandbars can move, but the hot spots generally are, each time there's a storm, we know it's gonna be more vulnerable there. Is that correct?
Correct.
I just want the public to be able to.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Very, very much so. So I've got 3 maps that basically show, I talked about 15 impacted structures. I've got 3 maps that kind of show where those are. The northernmost is between, that red circle there is between Historic and Starfish. One of those structures is obviously the Pelican Watch, the one that's just north of Kitty Hawk Road that's kind of still out on the beach. And then the other 3 are that area between Sea Dunes and White Avenue. That's where we've got, I think, 11 of those structures. That was all, the northern few of those houses are the houses that I showed in that drone shot that I showed just a few minutes
Hey,
ago.
Ken, if I could, please, could you explain what I'm looking at here? The lines, I can't really make it out, but I think that furthest one east is the 2025 line? Is that, I can't,
That's right. The furthest one east, the black line is actually,
it looks like it's black to me from here, so.
yeah, well,
I'm old,
I
man.
guess on the right-hand side where that black line juts out away from the houses,
Right,
that actually
right.
is the most updated one, but you'll
Okay.
notice that it actually juts in and is probably slightly landward of the most seaward, that blue line basically.
Okay,
I think the blue line is the 2020 line.
okay,
So the black line is
Right,
back,
right.
it's actually closer to the yellow line. I think it actually runs under the yellow line right there.
and again, that depicts the 1 foot erosion line that you're saying?
That predicts, so basically, if you look at the profile that's on either end of that red circle, so we would have an impact point on each of those orange cross sections or orange north, south, up or down lines.
Okay,
Not north, south, up or down. And those impact points are where we've lost 1 foot of elevation in the storm simulation.
in the simulation.
In
okay.
the simulation, right? The
Okay.
simulation indicates that, and obviously if you were out on the beach, that 1 foot loss is much bigger, but
Mhm.
it gets smaller and smaller, and we try to find the point furthest back landward on that profile where we've lost 1
Okay.
foot of beach.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay, so this kind of sums up that dune analysis. We did evaluate a small storm berm. I think Adam talked previously that was going to be part of the analysis. We looked at almost doing kind of a stair step up. Instead of building out the front of these dunes, because they are so vegetated, could we build a pad of sand that's a little bit higher than the dry sand wide beach? And maybe place that right in front of the dune and let that kind of naturally act as a reservoir to build more and more. We built a small one in the model. It was only about 4 cubic yards, a linear foot. And we ran that simulation. That small of a feature doesn't really move that line one way or the other. And to go up in that, you know, it will drive the cost. And then obviously, once we saw the results of how we went from 126 to 70 to 15, you know, the idea of spending significant amount of money on that, you know, we didn't go, you know, too much further in running bigger and bigger simulations to try to figure out how much volume it would take. So our recommendation at this point in time would be to identify those areas like I showed between the bathhouse and White Avenue, try to repair those dunes again, similar to what was done in 2022. I also talked about we're looking at variable fill densities, so not just the amount of sand that we would put in that dune, but maybe building the berm a little bit wider in that section. The northern end of town seems to perform the best, so maybe peeling back a little bit the density that we would place in the northern part of town and try to place a little bit more in those hotspot areas that we've seen, you know, predictably turn up after each of these events. Continued placement of sand fencing and potentially vegetation as well. And then one thing that could be done is right prior to the 2027 construction project next year, the contractors will come in and they'll do a pre-construction survey of the whole beach so that we can kind of finalize exactly the fill density for each one of these sections of the beach. But we could take that survey at that point in time and rerun this analysis. It's fairly straightforward now that the model itself is set up. But we could look at the vulnerability right up, you know, basically, in theory, you'd be looking at when all of the green advanced fill is gone and all you're left with is the red, that would be where we would be sitting in the summer of 2027. So if we ran that storm simulation again, perhaps we could look at how much wider you might have to widen the berm in those areas to fully wipe out those last 15, you know, vulnerable structures, or maybe there's a few more than 15 at that point in time. But what that would do is we would know that volume and that design right off the bat, and as we move beyond 2027, we could build that into the estimate of what the project's going to look like 6 years down the road, so that we're planning accordingly for that. Okay, last thing that I want to touch on that was on that list of bullets is borrow sites. So these are the actual sources of sand that we propose to take for the beach nourishment projects. The big green polygon that's on the right-hand side of that map is the area that was used for the area where all the sand for both the 2017 and the 2022 Kitty Hawk projects came from. The majority of all the sand for the Four Towns project has come from there. A little bit of the sand from Duck for the first project came in those green polygons that are kind of in the center of that map. They were not used in 2022. So over the last couple of years, we've done a pretty exhaustive resource investigation for sand deposits offshore that was paid in half by Dare County, in half there was a grant from the state of North Carolina. And what we've been able to do is identify several additional borrow sites, some of which are proposed to be used for the upcoming 2027 project. So you see on the left-hand side, there's one way up north. It's actually north of the town of Duck that would probably only be used for the town of Duck, labeled E8. But there are two additional blue polygons, that D4 and D5. And then there are a couple of them that kind of surround that green polygon that are going to allow us to expand that borrow area that had been used previously. So in total, we should have about 19.3 million cubic yards available to the contractor for this upcoming project. Again, we're talking about like 2.3 to 3.1 million cubic yards. So plenty of sand for that project and most likely a few more. But what I wanted to touch on was that item that we talked about, that option item that potentially needs to be approved, is in that green area that had previously been used. When we went in to ask for permits from the state in 2022, they came back with some comments of how do we know that the sand in that borrow site is still compatible. We put a lot of effort into it back in 2014 to know that that sand is compatible, but in some areas in the southern part of the state, you tend to dig a borrow pit and you almost create a hole. And there's a concern that that hole may be filled in with incompatible materials, silt and mud that might be floating around in the water column. These borrow sites up off of Dare County, they're essentially hills, they're offshore hills. And so we're cutting parts of that hill off, bringing it down, but we're not creating a depression where incompatible material could settle in there. So we had some discussions with the state. They said, essentially their hands were kind of tied with the way that the rules work, but that if we took a few extra vibrocores and we took some grab samples out there and resurveyed the borrow site, we may not have to redesign the entire borrow area. So we did that in '22, but when we went into the design for this upcoming project, we wanted to think through that process ahead of time. So we've had some discussions with the agencies. We did collect some of those grab samples, which was part of the base contract. The state has come back and they said we won't need to take additional vibrocores in that site, which would save each of the towns like $11,000, I think, which is good. But they did ask that some of the samples that have already been collected, we would run grade size analysis on those and provide those to them. So that option item, I think it was $5,100, $5,127. I don't think that we're going to spend anywhere close to the total of that, but that would be one of those option items in order to get through that state permitting process. I think we're going to have to move forward with that. All right, last thing that I wanted to share with you is this idea about the 5, 6, 7 year maintenance cycle. We talked a little bit about volume. So obviously if you're building for the 6 or 7, you're going up in volume. What I've highlighted on this slide here are the numbers specific to Kitty Hawk, but you can see the numbers for the other 3 towns as well. If you start from the left, after you see in the upper panel, you've got the listed towns, and the first number that you come to is the volume of material you would need to be able to build the 5-year maintenance cycle. So that volume for Kitty Hawk is 721,600. The number directly next to that is the total all-in cost of that 5-year project. The number next to that is simply if you took that number and divided it by 5 years, because you're paying the project off over 5 years, you would get that essentially annualized cost per year of $2.549 million. The next cell over is the equivalent of 6 years. So we've added volume. The volume went up from 721,600 to 865,900. You see the increase in cost up to 14.6 million. But now we divide that number by 6 years because you're paying it off over 6 years. The idea there, it's not, I want to be completely transparent. It's not necessarily a gimmick to show cost savings. It's essentially the idea that these projects are understood that there's always maintenance. And so the way that the towns have paid for these projects, the way that the county is contributing funds, is that you've got 5 years to pay this project off, and then you're going to go into another big construction project, and you've got 5 years to pay the next one off. So if you're always paying something every year, if you extend this out to 6 or 7 years, that per year cost actually goes down. And that's what that last number in kind of the tan column shows, that per year there's a cost savings of $119,137. So if you just look in terms of I'm going to pay something every single year, there is a reduction in cost. The panel below is simply comparing that same 5-year maintenance, so all those first 3 columns are the same, to a 7-year maintenance. And you can see that the cost savings increases again. Instead of $119,000 per year, you're up to $207,000 per year. So the obvious question is, if it's that easy, well then why not give me a project that would go 10 years or 15 years? Because then we can really jack up the cost savings. The problem with that is when you build these projects, and the bigger the impact, so the bigger the bump in the shoreline that you construct, the more nature has a tendency of trying to smooth that bump in the shoreline out and spread that material laterally, and it will erode the project faster and faster, the bigger you make that bump. So there is a sweet spot in there, an optimization, if you will, that we're trying to balance. But after seeing these first couple of projects over 5 years and running some simulations, doing some analysis, we're starting to get more and more comfortable that that 7-year project is a reality. Now, the key here is that all the towns are gonna have to decide to do the same thing. We can't have Kitty Hawk going 7 years and Duck going 5 years, because then the math doesn't work. So, it is a bit of a balancing act. We're gonna have one more shot in May. We'll be collecting new data for all 4 towns. That's probably we've been telling all the towns, the time that this decision is probably gonna need to be made is probably sometime in July, where we have that new data, we're able to meet with all 4 of the towns, talk about the implications, finalize the engineering analysis, and try to get some discussions. Some of this is also going to be contingent on the position of the county, obviously, as a big cost share partner there. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Yeah, Ken, I've got one about this slide here. So your estimation, just from the 5-year to the 6 years, it'll take about 100,000 plus cubic yards to prevent the erosion for 1 more year.
Correct.
And that's your algorithm was using those simulations you were talking about with 1 year?
That one is primarily looking at observed volume losses that have occurred between the 2017 project and the 2022 project. So we have 5 years of data between those 2 beach nourishment projects. These numbers are really based on that rate. I will tell you that between 2022 and the time the project was built and the surveys that we have from this past year, 2025, so the first 3 years of this cycle, the Kitty Hawk project's actually performing better than the volume that would be indicated in these. Now, we know it's been a pretty rough winter, so my guess is we're getting closer to those estimated volumes, but that's also something that we've been talking with the other towns. Some of the towns are in a really good position. Some of the towns are pretty much tracking where we would have anticipated them to be tracking. And so there's kind of a decision point there that if the current project doesn't erode as fast as these predictions show, we may be talking about reducing some of the volume and still being able to get to a 7-year projection. So that's also that's again why the decision point is we're kicking the can down the road, because we really want to see that next year's worth of data to see what this winter looked like and how that affected our long-term observations.
How do you propose to get all the towns on the same page?
That's beyond my pay grade. I mean, all we can do is continue to give information. We provided all these data to the county finance director. I know that they're working on their models as well to figure out what they can do long term. They just recently got some bids in for the Nags Head project and the Avon Buxton project. My guess is that those numbers were a little bit higher than might have already been built into the model. So I think they're going back and kind of retooling that. There's also a grant that's already been secured from the state for this 2027 project. There's about $7.5 million that was secured by the county for this next project. So that all plays into it. But I think maybe like the end of March, there's supposed to be another meeting to discuss some of this.
Yes, with the county.
But yes, I won't. I'm not in charge.
It's a good question.
Getting all of them to come together. I mean, I was at a meeting up at Duck last week, and the town manager, very candidly was like, 7 years, gives me a little bit of heartburn. I trust your analysis, but I kind of don't trust the analysis, and like maybe 6 is a sweet spot, and we see how 6 works this next go round, and then. If it works, maybe we go to 7 the following year. Some of this, there's some things that we could do in terms of when we bid out the project. If we can get everyone to settle in on 6, but maybe we could go to 7, we could bid the project out for a base amount of volume, assuming we're going to build a 6-year project, and then provide the contractors with the option of going to 7, and basically looking at the price. If the price is, better than we expected, maybe you roll the dice and go with it because you're getting a better than anticipated price. If the prices come in a little bit higher, you know, maybe that gives, that weighs into the answer that, you know, folks couldn't afford to go up to the 7-year project, so. There's a lot of moving parts, but like I said, we continue to be, you know, super transparent, working hard with the county, you know, working with each of the towns, and, you know, there's still some data to be collected in the next couple of months, but, yeah, around July, I suspect will be decision time for everybody.
Anybody else have questions for Ken? Anybody?
Thank you, Ken.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank
again
you.
for shuffling me around. Apologize
Happy
for
to
that.
do it, Ken. Okay, we'll get back to our agenda, and we have new business. I need an appointment to the Recreation Committee. We have a vacancy on that committee.
So, Madam Mayor, I make a motion to appoint Grace Onloff as a member of the Recreation Committee.
Madam Mayor, I'll second that.
Thank you. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's official. And Grace happens to
Congrats.
be in the audience tonight. Grace, would you stand and let everybody see who you are? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Under old business, we have the fleet management policy.
I'm the old business.
Oh, you have no idea.
Anyway, it's not in the proper format evidently, but, we'll suffer through this. Okay, so, tonight, and I'm sorry it says February 2nd, it's actually March the 2nd now. We have before you the fleet maintenance policy. Actually, you guys have had this since October, and I appreciate the feedback that I have gotten from y'all. And I just wanted to kind of go over the overview of it. Okay. So, first off, we have policy overview. So, the town has never had an actual written policy on fleet management. And we as a leadership team felt the need that we needed to establish uniform standards, some of which we've been practicing, they're just not written down, for the operation of purchase, assignment, maintenance, and disposal of town vehicles. This applies to all of the vehicles owned and licensed and rented or otherwise controlled by the town of Kitty Hawk. And it also ensures safe and efficient and cost-effective transportation for official town business. So why is this important? Fleet vehicles are essential to delivering town services, as other than our people and our buildings. The vehicles are probably our largest asset. We need to have clear standards to reduce risk, control costs, and extend our vehicle life. And we need to align fleet decisions with our budget, our capital improvement plan, and our long-term planning. This policy applies to all vehicles owned, entitled, leased, rented, or otherwise controlled by the town, used by all departments and employees for official business. Key areas include vehicle operations, procurement and replacement, and maintenance and management. So, first of all, the general policy standards establish that vehicles are for official town business only. Departments are responsible for their assigned vehicles. Compliance with federal, state, and local laws is required. Vehicle purchases are reviewed through the annual budget process, and the finance department maintains all of the vehicle information, the type of asset tracking and inventory records. Driving records are verified upon hire and then annually. Professional and defensive driving courses are required. Town vehicles reflect the town's public image, and driving while under the influence of alcohol or an intoxicant is strictly prohibited, which would also probably be a state law. Passenger use is limited to official town business. Government license plates are on all the cars except for the unmarked police vehicles. Vehicles are required to be clearly marked as town vehicles, except again, unmarked police vehicles. There should be no unauthorized stickers or markings or anything on a town vehicle, and white is the standard vehicle color unless otherwise approved. So, fleet replacement, this is a practice that we've had for some time. We look at service life, technological life, and the economic life of a vehicle. Our replacement standards right now are police, fire, public works, and administrative vehicles, 80,000 miles or 8 years of age. And again, depending on that vehicle, we have a 2012 vehicle sitting out in the parking lot right now. So it just depends on the use and the need of that vehicle. Fire engines and equipment and ladders, we have 25-year life cycle currently. We did not change that. However, we will discuss lowering that threshold at our budget workshop. And then heavy trucks and equipment, mileage or hour-based thresholds are used on those vehicles. Again, we look at condition, reliability, maintenance costs, downtime, and operational need. Eligibility does not guarantee replacement. There could be budget decisions and prioritization that would prohibit a vehicle being replaced at the time. Council reviews the budget, reviews CIP, and approves both of those things on an annual basis. So any vehicle purchases, any vehicle leaving the program would be part of that budget, be part of the CIP. Again, you review and approve replacement schedules, capital purchases, and any exception of the policy. And that's something that I did add based on some input. If it's something outside of normal, like police vehicles, there's a certain standard in the policy that it needs to be an SUV or a truck. It's not necessarily to be a sedan that is no longer listed as a use. So if we were to decide to get a sedan for a police vehicle, that would need to be approved by council. Okay. So again, vehicles required by purchase, donation, transfer between departments. Again, the 2012 that we have in administration is from the police department. Rental or lease, government surplus, or court condemnation. All of these are coordinated with Liliana through finance. It's not something that's done just by one person. Vehicles that are being replaced or sold through government auction. We currently use GovDeals as our auction online. Vehicles may be reassigned with the town manager approval. Reduced costs. Sales require council approval. That's like sometimes other police departments ask for our used vehicles because they can't afford to buy a new one. And we've done that before where council has approved selling that directly to the other police department. Disposal timing, balances, service needs, and control costs. Again, it's all, we don't get the new vehicle, we get the new vehicle, then we let go of the old vehicle and all of that, so. So, the benefits of this policy to the town are improved public safety and reliability, reduced long-term operating and repair costs, consistent fleet standards across departments, stronger fiscal and asset accountability. What we're asking tonight is that you approve the fleet maintenance policy, affirm the replacement philosophy and life cycle standards, and support ongoing fleet planning through the capital improvement process and the budget process.
Okay.
And that is, I think, all I have.
Okay, council, what would you like to do with this?
Melody, I just have a clarification question for you. The, what would you call it, the replacement rate table shown in the?
The 80,008.
Yes.
Yes.
Does that differ from what we're currently
No,
utilizing?
it's exactly what we have.
There's nothing in there that has a shorter range of, okay.
For a
And that-
while, we used to be 7 years and 70 miles, and then we went to 10 years and 100,000 miles. But for a while now, we've been 8 and 80.
And just because a vehicle hits 8 or 80, if it's in good shape, it's not in the shop all the time, it's not just going to be replaced just because we hit
No.
that milestone?
Not at all,
Okay.
yeah.
I have a few things. It's definitely a lot better than it was. I still have some issues with some of it for sure. One thing I wanted to ask, you just mentioned a police department may not have the funds to have a patrol car. Is
Say
that,
that again?
you just mentioned that there might be another police department that doesn't have the funds for a patrol car. Is that something that you approve to send to them, or is that?
No, y'all have to approve it.
Okay. Then you have, there's, like the driving while impaired, which I would think is pretty common sense. I have a little heartburn as an example of employees who are taking prescription drugs may cause drowsiness or may affect the safety of the employees or others shall receive authorization from the department head. I mean, to me, that seems like a liability if the department head thinks they can drive and they aren't able to.
Well, I think the department head would take it very seriously.
Well, I understand. I mean, I do too, but we're
So
making,
do you think that should come to HR?
I'm not sure how to handle that. I mean, it's a good concern. I like the fact that, you know, you're trying to address that, but I don't like the liability feeling of that, the way it's worded. That's just
Well,
me.
there's a huge liability if somebody does
Absolutely.
that.
So the department head says, okay, I think you're fine to operate that backhoe today, and they're not. I mean, that's what I'm referring to, okay?
Well, that comes with trust of the department heads, I'll say.
I understand, but I gotta look out for the town from a liability standpoint as well. There's definitely some things that have been cleaned up. I personally would like to see a few more things. I like what everybody else got to say on any of it. I mean, based where we were in October to where we are now, there's some good things that have been added onto it.
And that's been based on input.
Yeah.
So if there's other things you'd like to see, then that needs to be told to me. Whatever, I mean,
No, I appreciate you putting the work into it. I'm not trying to discount
and
it.
I will say too, that this is not done just by me. This is a whole leadership team thing. Everybody on the team has reviewed this, decided they can live within these parameters and try to pick best practices for this type of thing.
Melanie, did the department heads get a chance to look at this?
Oh, they were part of developing it. Oh, yeah.
So here's another example too. You know, you have on travel, okay?
Well, we haven't gotten to travel yet.
Okay, so I'll stand until we get there. Mr. Hall up there, it's fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, we'll do that one next. Okay. Any other questions?
No, ma'am.
Do I have a motion to accept this policy?
Okay, well, thank you for allowing me to come in and go over this in your office. I really appreciate your time. Of course, we're not going to get everything perfect here, but this is a lot better than what we had to start with. And I think you've worked very hard to address some of the issues that council has come, and maybe and through conversation, we can, if there's some that's, we can revise the plan if we don't see. But to go ahead and have a policy period, I think we should move forward with what is recommended. So with that being said, I recommend motion to approve the fleet management policy. The Kitty Hawk fleet management? I don't know, there's a blank there.
Fleet management policy, that's it.
Councilman Pruitt, do you also include in that motion the affirmation of the philosophy behind the production and then future review,
And that's all in the
perhaps?
policy.
Which was
Yes.
all on ABC of that last slide?
Yes.
Perfect.
Matt, ask a question, because he made a comment about going back in down the road and revising some things. Should that be part of the motion, that's on the record?
That was actually in there.
Okay.
That was part of that ABC. Yeah.
And we can revise a policy anytime, all the time, and
Right.
we're finding that we need to do that quite often, so.
At least we have something, so I hold with my motion.
Thank you.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
All right, let's move on to the travel expense policy, if you're ready for that, Melody.
Okay, so now we're gonna talk about travel expense policy. This was an existing policy, and we have updated it, and again, you received copies, and I actually again changed it, from the last version because of some input and some confusion perhaps in the policy. But everything in the policy that is red is new or deleted or a change. So, the purpose of this policy is to support professional development and effective representation of the town. Ensures travel and training expenses are appropriate, reasonable, and compliant. Establishes clear guidelines for payment and reimbursement of travel expenses, and reinforces accountability. This was done because we realized we had a problem of, number one, some inconsistency, and number two, unfortunately, some abuse of some of the reimbursement policies. So, we want to clarify authority. The updates define clear lines of approval for travel at all levels, ensuring oversight and accountability. Expanded guidance on meal and per diem payments. Standardization of reimbursement procedures. Improved financial controls and compliance with the Fair Labor Standards Act to ensure consistent compensation for travel and compliance with federal guidelines. So, the new policy language. We add verbiage to town council has the authority to approve requests made by elected and appointed town officials. And now we're encouraging everybody's development, and so you guys can approve your own travel and so forth. Travel time will be paid for actual time spent traveling for the most direct route via Google Maps. We've had people say, oh, I took the scenic route, and it took them like 9 hours to get there, for a 3-hour trip. The town will not provide travel advances. Right now, we pay them up front. We don't have much control over what happens after that. So now we will pay travel reimbursements. You take the travel and you get reimbursed. If somebody has a financial hardship or they have an issue with not being paid up, and let me just say, travel advances are really only for the food and the mileage. The town pays on credit card for the hotel and the training. So the employee may need help with the meal per diem or maybe need help with the mileage. And they can do that with my approval. Reimbursements will be made upon completion of travel and submittal of proper documentation. Spouses, family members, or other guests may travel with town officials or employees at their own expense. The town will no longer pay for spouses and things like that.
Can I ask a question real quick? They can travel with their spouses or family members, but did I not, in the fleet
They
management?
can't go in the town car.
Can't go in the town car, correct?
For liability, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, per diem is provided only when an employee is traveling on official business and incurs meal expenses to being away from their regular work location for a qualifying period of time. We have had several requests where an employee who worked in, well, lived in Currituck, had a 3-hour meeting in Elizabeth City, and wanted us to pay them breakfast and lunch. That is not necessary because normally you would have to supply your own breakfast and lunch if you were going to a 3-hour meeting. So we are cleaning this up and clarifying this. So travel requires an overnight stay. The employee is away from their official duty station for 12 hours or more, and the travel is approved in advance by supervisor or department head. So we've kind of cleaned up when you get that, when you become eligible for a per diem. The per diem is not granted when the travel occurs entirely within the employee's normal work area or time. Meals are provided by the event, hotel, or host organization. The employee returns home the same day without an overnight stay. Per diem will not be approved for personal days taken during travel. Again, I'm going to take the day off, but I'm on the back end of my trip, you know. We will not, the town won't do that. So, let's see. The per diem covers breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and we use federal numbers for the per diem. Breakfast is eligible if your travel begins before 6 a.m. Lunch is eligible if your travel occurs between 10 and 2, and dinner if you return after 7 p.m. Lunch per diem is excluded from long same-day trips, as an employee can eat a normal meal during their regular work hours. You know, again, on a regular work day, we are not paying for lunch for everybody, so we wouldn't pay for the lunch. This was just a kind of, I won't go all over this, but examples, when you get a per diem, when you don't get a per diem, and so forth. The updated policy modernizes the town's approach to travel management, balancing efficiency, fairness, and stewardships of taxpayer funds, while ensuring all town officials and employees have a consistent understanding of their responsibilities when traveling on official business. Again, what we're asking for tonight is just an approval of the update of the policy. And again, we support ongoing and improvement and clarification of policies. There's already another one about inclement weather that came up the last time we had a snowstorm. So, you know, as things come up and we have questions, then we think we have to address them.
Then you go to your policy.
So, exactly.
Exactly.
So we feel these are best practices. Again, this was done by a committee of the lead team, and everybody had their input, and everybody has seen it. Everybody has said what they needed to say.
And these revisions have been in our hands since last Wednesday. Is that true? They were in our packet.
Well, basically, they were
Yeah.
in your hands in October. But
Right. But as you've gotten input, they are like, they have
I only had
from
one
your
input
input.
from this that I remember, and that was from Pete.
Okay.
Councilman Mance.
Okay.
And it was
And
just
you
something
took
that was
time, you
confusing.
sat down with
Yeah.
Mayor
And-
Pro Tem.
When you say lead team, that is department heads, correct? So fire chief, police chief, so they're all comfortable with this?
Yes.
Okay.
I rely on all of them heavily to.
Yeah, I just want to make sure.
Because they
who-
have to implement these policies.
I just
and they
wanted
have
to know who the team that was making this.
all the department heads.
Thank you.
Is there any cross-referencing of that with like other departments, say like fire looking at police and police looking at fire, just to get a input?
This is a town-wide policy, so it applies to everyone in
And
the
if you
town.
say department heads, I was wondering if you had like a little bit of cross feedback from other departments on the planning, talk about,
Oh, planning was everybody. It was planning. It was two
Finance.
chiefs, Rob, Liliana, me, Laura, and Lauren. I think it was, Willie.
And Willie.
And it's fun doing things by committee, I'll tell you.
Melody, I have a question. On one of the sheets here, it's talking about when it's granted, when it's not granted. The meal per diem is not granted when, and it goes on to list 4 things. The third bullet in that says when the employee returns home the same day without an overnight stay. That would be a case where meal per diem is not granted?
It depends on how long they've been gone.
That's my question. So if they leave at 5 a.m. and they get back at 8 p.m., they would get meal per diem for that
They
day?
wouldn't get lunch.
They would not get lunch? Okay. So just for the record, this policy, for me, seems like it's clearing up some definitions, when this is allowed, when it's not allowed.
Correct. And taking out some of the ways that people will always find a way, but just trying to clarify, we didn't have it written down, so.
And you could argue it.
Yes,
So in your opinion, is this gonna cost the town more, less, or the same for meal per
Less.
diem?
less.
Your opinion is that this will make the town's cost less because we
Yes.
now have definitions?
Yes.
Okay.
Agreed?
Okay, what do we want to do?
So you get breakfast and you get dinner, but you don't get lunch, because the assumption is you would be eating lunch,
Anyway.
right, out of your lunch box or whatever, right? But if I'm in Pine Tops, I might not be eating out of my lunch box.
No,
Hang
but
out. That's where
you
I'm
can
from.
also go
Watch
to,
it. So that's where I'm from. We got places to eat there.
but lots of people don't bring their lunch any day, they go out to eat,
Right.
so we don't feel the need to provide lunch. We didn't feel the need to provide lunch, unless it was an overnight stay.
Thank you.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to accept this travel expense policy?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the updated travel and expense policy as presented.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, more of me, just one more thing. This is also, we had talked about this briefly, I think, at the November meeting, and, we were to talk about it in February, is the discussion about town hall renovation. So, town hall is about 5,580 square feet. It's a two-story, one and a half story, I guess it is, kind of. And a frame building built in 1987, 1988. Background, as the town grows, the current configuration is at capacity and lacks accessibility in reference to Americans with Disability Act. The town council asked me to explore renovating town hall for current and future needs. The staff here has identified move 3 offices from upstairs to downstairs for accessibility, achieve ADA accessibility for everyone, add additional bathrooms to meet or exceed building code requirements, create a dedicated break space that is separate from the copy room, create a small conference room, add a few offices for future needs, and design a visible and distinct planning suite for all the planning staff. Again, we have grown and we're pretty much at capacity now. So the first step to moving forward is to have a space allocation and design plan and what is possible, if we wanted all these things, where we could put them. So we have received 2 proposals. One is from Beacon Architects. It's budget friendly. It is a local company, well suited if the town wants to start with a limited feasibility study before committing to a full design. It does lack detailed cost estimating and multiple design options at this stage. So if we didn't come up with the right design from the very beginning, we would have to continue to pay additional money. The initial cost is $8,000. The second option is Dills Architects. It's a little bit more comprehensive. It includes programming, multiple design iterations, and a cost estimate, which does offer more clarity for budgeting and decision making. While it is more expensive, it likely provides a better value if the town aims to move quickly. And I'm not sure that we're in a position to move quickly financially wise, into schematic and eventual construction phases. That cost is $14,500. So either cost would need to be approved as a budget amendment and transfer from the fund balance. And you have copies of the proposals. That's all I have on that. If council would like to move forward with just trying to figure this out or taking the first step, we would need a motion to approve one of the contracts and, take it from the general fund. Okay?
And that's there, so it's,
Oh, yeah.
we're better, okay. All right.
Did they specify how long those quotes were good for?
No.
Okay.
But we could, I'm sure we can work
Okay.
it out. Oh, do you have any questions? You have any questions? Kirby?
I have I guess a recommendation. We have a budget workshop on the 20th of March at 9 a.m. And I think I would like to have more information of our needs for the following year for our trucks and
Okay.
where we stand. And then see after we set our budget and whether we have to raise taxes or whatever, we can see if where we're at with even considering it. I would hate to spend $8 and find out that, you know.
And then not do anything
Not do
with it.
anything.
I
So
agree.
I think if we were to everybody think about this and after we crunch numbers all through our budget, that we could have a more, I think a better decision on where the town is financially before I would want to spend $8,000 and realize that we're getting ready to not be able to pay for a fire truck, chief.
I
So
understand. I think that's wise.
that's just mine, and so,
If that ends up being where council's at, you could do that by consensus, wouldn't require a vote. So you could just all agree to discuss it at the budget workshop.
Not necessarily needing to make a decision at the budget workshop?
No, just.
Just a continued discussion.
Exactly,
Mhm.
exactly.
I agree with Mr. Pruitt. I think the discussion is great. I think discussions are gonna need to be started, but right now, like deciding on moving forward with a cost such as that when we have other expenses coming up.
I understand. And, you know, this was one of the goals that I was attached with, so I just want to follow through.
Yeah, no, that's good.
and I still want to move forward.
Yes.
I think at the budget, and that's a great place for all, because
And
we're
I
more
agree.
relaxed atmosphere and
Because there's nothing worse than doing a plan and then not doing anything
correct.
about it.
We did that one time.
Yeah.
A lot more than $8,000. So I want to make sure it doesn't happen again. you know.
I agree.
That's what's
I'm good with that.
And we just got the bulletproof glass. I mean, that thing was on back order for like, what? A while?
Did it take that long?
Yeah.
So I'd agree as well, and how it fits in, and I guess we can figure this out at the budget workshop is, you know, our capital funds prioritization, how does that fit in? Because there's it's 8,000, as you were saying, for this, but it's for a much larger effort, and how does all that fit in?
Exactly.
But we recognize that there's a need for further space because we've outgrown. So,
And this
all the
is
things
not
you listed.
going to be an inexpensive undertaking if we decide to do this. And so, you know, it will take some budget magic and some real prioritizing to make it happen in the next 5-10 years.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I got a question for Rob. Based on that comment, does the government, town of Kitty Hawk, fall under the 50% rule to bring everything up to code?
Substantial improvement.
Because I know it's based on an appraisal or whatever, but, I mean, are we exempt from that? Because you start tearing into things, you never know.
What you said, no.
Am I making sense what I'm asking you? Like, if it's more than 50% of the tax value or appraised value, everything has to be brought into code.
What is not up to code, do we know?
Probably
You're
a lot.
talking for flood damage prevention, which I believe this building is elevated above
That- yeah.
RFP. So I think,
What my thoughts were, yeah.
but yeah, so that would apply for flood damage prevention purposes.
But even a standard building permit would apply even well, I guess the next flood zone is still a flood zone, but.
Yeah, I would have to confer with Christian on that, building inspector, but, as far as the elevation rate, I think we are I think this building is compliant with current flood regulations,
Right.
so even if, I don't know what this building would be assessed at, but if it did come in over 50%, I think our elevation is high enough that we'd be all right.
You would have to bring the whole building into compliance and then.
Right, I mean, I can't speak to the building part of it offhand, but from the elevation for flood.
That's why I'm
flood
speaking to the
protection,
building side of it.
I'd have to look into that.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
Melody, to get my wheels turning, adding a few offices for future needs, do you have in mind how many you're thinking? Is that a 2 to 3 number?
We had said 3.
Three?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the planning department would, like, the idea was to put a door right as you walk in the door and fill in this square that's got the HVAC stuff in it and make that more of a planning suite where they could have their own spaces and have a big table in the middle and the
That's a good idea.
receptionist. And then that would probably take care of moving us downstairs, because Rob would go there and Laura and I could go somewhere down here. And then, I mean, it could be done in phases too,
Yeah,
you know? So those are and the bathrooms, I think David Lewis told us we're not up to code for the number of bathrooms that we were supposed to have. So, and that's always, especially when we have an event here or something, we always have some bathroom issues and things.
On that same note, conference room, any ideas what size conference room we're thinking?
I mean, it could be the size of the lunchroom, you know, just without all that stuff. But enough to fit 6, 7, 8, I mean, maybe.
Like department heads?
Yeah.
Like a
Or
8
when
to 10 seater?
when we meet with public, or when Rob and them meet with people that are looking for a building permit or have plans, well, planning would be, but, I mean, we use this room as a multi-purpose room all the time. You know, we come over here a lot. So, something that might have smaller than this for any kind of meeting.
Right.
Okay.
So we're tabling this until after the budget meeting?
Sure.
Okay? And,
Everyone in agreement?
Yeah.
absolutely. Melody, do you have any reports
Any more
tonight?
stuff? Yes, I do. I just want to remind everybody that March the 21st is our community cleanup day. We keep it clean, Kitty Hawk. You can go on our website and register to volunteer. It is a fun, easy event. It's 10 to 12, and we serve lunch and snacks and all kinds of stuff. So it's a lot of fun. Also, in 2025, Kitty Hawk officially named the live oak as its town tree. This effort was spearheaded by Kitty Hawk resident Ron Tumalo. And tonight I'm proud to share a video created in conjunction with the local government access channel that highlights our official tree and how one person's voice can make a difference. And I want to say special thanks to Mr. Tumalo and Lauren here for participating in the video and coordinating that. So I wanted to share it.
In Kitty Hawk, some of our strongest landmarks don't have signs or names. They have roots. The live oak, strong, enduring, and unmistakably coastal, has long shaped our town's landscape. And in 2025, Kitty Hawk officially named the live oak as its town tree. But this story didn't start with a policy. It began with a person.
I've always wanted to do what I can do to preserve the live oak. I think it represents so much of who we are and where we are as a community.
Kitty Hawk resident Ron Tumalo noticed something meaningful and chose to participate in local government by proposing an idea rooted in shared values. That idea sparked a conversation, and that conversation led to action. This is what public participation in local governance looks like.
Local government works best when people speak up, especially when the goal is preservation and education.
The live oak is native to coastal North Carolina and is uniquely suited to the Outer Banks. Its deep roots help stabilize sandy soils. Its wide canopy protects against wind and storms. Its branches shelter wildlife and define the look and feel of our neighborhoods. Some of these trees have stood here for generations, quiet witnesses to Kitty Hawk's history.
When I came up with this idea, I really wanted to do what I could to make sure we weren't going to be infringing on the property rights of our citizens. This was more about recognizing what we already have and what connects us, and that's our live oak.
That distinction matters. Naming the live oak as Kitty Hawk's official tree does not create new rules for homeowners. It does not limit private property rights. The designation is educational, meant to promote awareness, conversation, and appreciation entirely by choice. For residents who want to care for their live oaks, there are trusted resources available. The North Carolina Cooperative Extension offers research-based guidance on pruning, tree health, and storm preparation. ISA certified arborists can help homeowners assess tree safety and longevity, especially after major weather events. Organizations like the North Carolina Forest Service provide educational tools for protecting trees. These resources empower residents to make informed choices on their own terms.
I think this shows what everyday people and everyday citizens can do to shape their town in a positive, lasting way.
The live oak stands as Kitty Hawk's official tree and also as a symbol of something deeper, of civic engagement, of shared stewardship, and how one voice rooted in care for community and history can help shape the place we call home.
And you'll recognize Lauren's voice. She's the voiceover. She does a great job. And I just think it's a great example of how we kind of came through this with a citizen suggestion. Also, the dune walkover at Kitty Hawk Road is complete and ready for the season, and we've had very positive comments, and even people say this is good to see our taxpayer money at work, so kudos to us. And also, I want to thank you guys. We recently had the fire department and Public Works install, with our IT provider, install redundancy internet for our town buildings. And in the event of severe weather, service outages, other expected disruptions, this system will help us to remain connected and operational when it's most important. So I want to thank you guys for supporting that and letting us move forward with those projects. So, and we saved quite a bit of money by having the fire department and Public Works help with the installation instead of hiring a third party. The fire department actually has this big ladder truck, so they can climb into tall spaces. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Melody. Casey, do you
Nothing
have
for me.
anything for us?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Dylan?
Yes,
would
ma'am.
you like to?
Just want to welcome Michael and Mason to the force and thank them. Also thank Mr. Wilson for his presentation on the beach nourishment. That stuff is, it's a lot to explain there, and I certainly learned something new. So it was pretty good. And just a quick update, I did have a resident reach out to me a couple weeks ago about the White Street beach access. Just looking for a status update. And town manager and I got back with her and just replied that we were still trying to gather some information. There's nothing that I know of, anything new. Is there, Mr. Attorney?
No, and there are some items that in closed session would perhaps be better addressed for, again, consideration. So at a future meeting, maybe even our next one, we'll have a closed session to kind of go over certain things.
Okay.
Perfect.
And I'll limit it to that just because obviously we're talking about closed session stuff.
Understood. So more to follow once we get information that we can share with the public on that, just for everybody who's listening that also has an interest in it.
But nothing new, to answer your question.
Nothing new. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dylan.
Yes, I'd also like to thank Mason and Michael, and welcome to our force. And Charlotte, thank you very much for our League of Women Voter Guide and all that y'all do to make awareness to all of our candidates and elected officials. I'd like to thank Steve House for all the good work that the OBX Invasion and your group does for our area. We appreciate it very much, Steve. And Ken has been with the engineering firm, has been very educational. When we started Beach Nourishment, other towns were to add more beach. Our idea was to save houses and infrastructure. That was our goal, and he's proven that they're doing a very good job of doing that for us. Grace, welcome to the Recreation Committee. Look forward to seeing you. Also, I've just been reappointed to the Dare County Tourism Board. Thank you, Steve, and your fellow commissioners for believing in me enough to put me back on. Thank you, David, for your role. I'm taking David's place, and thank you very much for all you did on that. Let's see. We have an update on the Tourist Bureau. On March the 14th, the OBX Taste of the Beach Chowder Cook-Off will be at 11 a.m. at the Outer Banks Brew Station. Also, the North Carolina School of Government, Councilman Madam Mayor and I attended the School of Government classes. It was a very educational classes for all of us. I think we all learned a great deal, and I think we all came back home realizing how well we have it. Folks, some places aren't in the conditions that we are through bad management and bad staff and bad elected officials, and thank you, staff, for that. And while I was there, I was tapped on the back, and I got a little card in a note, and it's from the Betty Moore Williams, a former employee of the town of Kitty Hawk for many years, and the card says, Town of Janesville, Betty Moore, Mayor. Wow. Betty is now the mayor of Janesville. It was founded in 1785, and it's her daddy's hometown. And I just want to give her a shout out. She gave us so much credit for all the things she learned while she was here working for the town of Kitty Hawk. That is all.
You should have heard her squeal when she heard us say we were from Kitty Hawk. And she was right behind us. And I thought, oh my gosh, what's happened to this woman? But she was excited that we were there. So, David, do you have anything?
Yes, ma'am. I also like to thank Morton Mason and welcome Grace. And, I think Mr. House should get a standing ovation. I saw him at the polar plunge, and I looked like he was going to a commissioner meeting. No, he was going in the plunge, dressed with a tie and everything, or not tie, but coat and shoes. And I have a picture of you getting out, which I'll share with you later. Also, I had it was a good turnout for the polar bear plunge. It was for Special Olympics. This past weekend was a good time. I had a question for Casey. Can you real quick let us know where that easement is right behind the bathhouse that your law partner signed off on several years ago?
Let me know, what do you mean?
There was an easement.
No, but when you say let you know where it is, the location?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. So from what I recall, and if I had the document in front of me, I would know a little bit better, but running essentially right from behind what's now two roads, down the property line of the U.S. Postal property. I forget the exact dimensions, but leading ultimately directly to the bathhouse.
Right.
So kind of running the property line from two roads, like I said, down past the Postal Service, the federal property, right to the bathhouse.
Okay.
From the highway?
Well, yeah, there would be access coming in from the highway, yeah, sorry. The intersection point after you get through two roads would be the back end where it intersects with the postal property. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, sorry, I just didn't know. I was like, oh no, did I forget to do it?
I thought about doing this or something, so I didn't catch you off guard.
No, fine. No, I got it. I got you. Location wise, yeah. That's the general proximity of it.
Is that easement just an access easement, or can it be used for anything else you're aware of?
Good question. No, access is, I believe.
Primary.
Access is your primary.
Okay.
Cause and a purpose for that particular easement. So,
right.
But it was vague in its terms. So, lawyers like vague. We could do a lot of things with vague.
It was
But no, I would say that in the past research that I did, yes, access was the ultimate purpose. I do remember we looked into the potential to be able to improve for access purposes. So whether that be gravel or cement or whatever. And we never really got that far along because we didn't really have a need for it at that particular time.
If I recall, I think it was, we were discussing improvements, and
Right.
but we didn't have access at that point. Then we were granted access and kind of just drifted away.
Right, exactly.
Do you have any other comments, David?
That's it, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Pete, do you have something?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, Council, just to reiterate what Mayor Pro Tem said, that training has been fantastic. Dylan, I know you and I did that online as well, so not just in person, but online. But I want to thank Melody and the staff for setting that stuff up for us, and for the staff partaking in it as well. That development of our folks really means a lot. It's significant, it's important because it really goes to the heart of being able to run government efficiently and effectively, and making sure that we have the right people trained in the proper areas, not to mention the fact that it's, the mandatory ethics training, those type things. So it's amazing the amount of resources that UNC brings to the table, and that North Carolina specifically brings to the table amongst any other state to help folks like us out navigate through some of these bigger challenges. So that was a real eye-opener for me, and I got a great time to spend with you folks as well. So having said that, Recreation Committee update, just real quick. Grace, welcome to the Recreation Committee. Look forward to working with you as the liaison. The Recreation Committee has done a lot to talk about the trails around Town Hall and looking at how we can clean them up and get them ready for the season. So some really neat stuff going on there, to include a lot of discussion about potential other events such as a Halloween opportunity where we might be able to use the trails during Halloween for special events. So some real exciting stuff that the Recreation Committee is working on and getting some new energy in. It's awesome as well to include looking at our strategic plan, which goes into so many things, to include our town vision, everything that's mentioned in the Campbell land use plan all the way through. So those type strategic plans are very important. And that kind of goes back to you, Melody, and doing some of the, what I call housekeeping with the travel and the fleet management. Those are all critical to making sure that the gears are turning and moving properly. So I know a lot of hard work in that. Nobody wants to do that, but thank you for doing that. The other thing the Rec Committee has been working on is the life-saving memorial down at the bathhouse that you were just talking about. We've got the pillars in place, and next step will be putting up the gambles and the roof. The educational panels are in the work right now, and those should be getting hopefully finished towards the end of March, with an ideal goal of having everything in place, ready to open for the season in April. So that's what we're shooting for right now, and there's another attachment with a boat, a model boat that's going to be hung underneath, but unfortunately that won't be ready until June. So, but that won't hold anything up from that end. We also have the North Carolina Trail Association has been doing a whole lot, and this is a really neat piece because North Carolina and all the trails and connecting them, being able to bring them back to Kitty Hawk, and Kitty Hawk having a rep as part of the region of how we connect all these trails together, which brings in tourism and economy and everything else. It's a big deal. So it's awesome to have a Recreation Committee member attend a much broader outside Dare County regional event. So a lot of neat things going on there, and outside of that, that's all I have now.
Okay, thank you. Well, Grace, welcome aboard. And I was appointed to the Dare County Housing Foundation, and right now they're just, we're getting some housekeeping done and then investigating and identifying properties, and next month I hope I have a better update for you from the Housing Foundation. That that school that we went to was amazing, and what I took away from it was I left with a sheet of people that would answer any question or help us with anything that we happen to have, their phone numbers, and they were happy for us to contact them, and it's really nice to know that we have all that at our fingertips to be able to utilize that. And thank you for all your work you've done with the life-saving station, and I'd like to thank the Tourist Bureau as well for the grant that they gave us to do that. If there's no other comments or anything, then I will entertain a motion to recess until March 20th budget workshop at 9 a.m. at the Kitty Hawk Police Department.
So moved, Mr. Mayor. Madam Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you.
All right.